Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable money-making discoveries in the world of rare coins, a coin that many people once believed to be just another ordinary piece of pocket change, but is now talked about among collectors as a jaw-dropping treasure. The 1979 no-mint mark $1/4 USA coin that is claimed to have reached a staggering value of $17 million because of its mysterious errors, shocking minting flaws, and nearly impossible survival conditions, a coin that pushes every boundary of rarity and value and gives hope to millions of people that the change sitting quietly in drawers, old jars, forgotten purses, or inherited boxes might secretly hold a life-changing fortune. Now imagine holding a coin that was never meant to exist, a coin struck in a year when minting procedures were transitioning, when machines were updated, when human oversight was tested, when the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting to eliminate mint mark punches and many mistakes slipped through unnoticed, making that tiny missing letter a sign of something far more valuable than most people ever imagined. Because this coin, unlike the typical 1979 quarter with clear mint marks such as D for Denver or S for San Francisco proof strikes, shows no mint mark at all yet possesses additional characteristics far more intriguing than simply missing the small identifying mark, and these additional features are what elevate the conversation from curiosity to potential multimillion-dollar value, starting with one of the most debated and exciting possibilities, the double-strike misalignment that only appears under magnification, where parts of George Washington's profile appear slightly duplicated as though the die bounced or the planchet repositioned itself microseconds apart, which suggests the coin may have been struck twice, either intentionally through a mechanical error or accidentally due to a timing delay. Now, consider the metal composition, another factor that sends shockwaves across the numismatic community, because in 1979 the standard quarter was composed of a clad mixture of copper and nickel layers bonded around a copper core, but certain alleged specimens appear to possess a slightly different density, color shade, sound resonance, and edge striping pattern, which leads some experts to believe some planchets may have been leftovers from experimental runs, rejected proof stock, or misfed blanks intended for foreign contract coinage, because in that era the U.S. Mint also manufactured coins for other nations, and accidental crossover of planchets has happened before in verified high-value cases. And if a 1979 quarter without mint mark was struck on a silver, foreign, or experimental alloy planchet even accidentally, then its rarity exponentially increases, turning it into a one-of-a-kind treasure. Now another possibility that collectors chase is the possession of a broad strike error, where the collar that normally constrains the blank during the strike fails and allows the metal to expand slightly, resulting in a coin that looks flatter, wider, or oddly shaped yet retains its full detail but appears stretched. And if this broad strike occurred in combination with missing mint mark and misalignment, then we are no longer talking about a simple production flaw but a highly improbable stacking of multiple mistakes in a single surviving specimen. And then comes the discussion of the faint ghost image transfer, also called die clash, produced when the striking dies come together without a coin between them, causing impressions that later transfer faint outlines to the next coin. And if those clash marks appear in unusual places like the field near the motto, above the date, or behind Washington's ponytail, it indicates the dies involved in producing the coin endured mechanical stress or unexpected contact, further proving that this particular 1979 coin was part of a chaotic moment inside the mint pressing machines where unusual conditions created outcomes never meant for circulation. Now think about survival, because even if 5 or 10 such pieces were mistakenly struck, the chance that any survived 4 decades of circulation, whether coin counting machines, vending machines, sorting facilities, and unknowing hands that spent them on bus fares or snacks, is unbelievably low, which makes survival and high grade potentially rarer than precious gemstones. And because collectors value rarity plus condition above all else, a 1979 no mint mark quarter displaying multiple errors, struck under unusual conditions, surviving in near pristine condition, becomes not only historically fascinating but financially enormous. And when collectors compete, emotional bidding wars take over, millionaires seek ownership, museums show interest, and investors looking for tangible assets step in, which raises the price ceiling to heights most people cannot imagine for a mere quarter. And then there is the psychological and cultural value, the dream that anyone anywhere might one day discover a life-changing coin in a coin roll, thrift find, inherited collection, or forgotten drawer, because scarcity combined with hope pushes value beyond logic and into legend, and that is how stories of ordinary coins valued at extraordinary sums become real financial outcomes when history, condition, rarity, error stacking and demand align like pieces in a cosmic puzzle that only forms once in a lifetime. And the 1979 no-mint Mark $1/4 USA coin worth $17 million stands as a symbol of that once unthinkable possibility that the smallest object can carry the biggest reward, and today people all around the world search their spare change for the next unsuspecting fortune waiting silently, disguised as a simple piece of currency ready to change someone's life forever. Next, 1991 mint Mark $1/4 USA coin, a coin minted during a period when modern minting technology was considered stabilized and error-free. Yet somehow this coin shattered assumptions because errors that should have been impossible according to the equipment, standards and inspection protocols still happened. And these errors created what some investors today label as the $11 million phenomenon. And what makes this coin worth such unimaginable figures begins not just with the mint mark P, indicating Philadelphia production, but with the fact that this particular coin is said to possess anomalies unseen on typical 1991 quarter specimens, beginning with the strike irregularities that reveal themselves under close inspection where the letters of Liberty appear slightly doubled. Not in the traditional north-south doubling seen from die shift, but in a diagonal faint shadow trailing downward which suggests that the die either rotated microscopically between strikes or the metal planchet bounced due to vibration, causing a ghosting effect that creates an almost holographic appearance under certain light angles, an effect highly sought not because doubling alone creates value, but because doubling combined with other unexpected errors compiles rarity exponentially. And in the case of the 1991 mint Mark $1/4 rumored to fetch $11 million, doubling might only be the first layer of the puzzle, because there are claims of a planchet anomaly, meaning the metal the coin was struck on might not be standard clad composition but possibly a transitional or foreign blank mistakenly fed into the United States quarter press in a year when the mint handled massive coinage volume for circulation and sometimes foreign contracts. And if the planchet possessed unusual density or alloy mixture, then the coin would produce a different ring test resonance when tapped, slightly altered edge coloration on the copper exposure line, and a weight deviation so slight that only precision scales could reveal it, meaning millions of typical 1991 P quarters exist but only one or two might exhibit this treasure-level composition variation, and rarity always commands value, especially when collectors hunt something nearly impossible to replicate. And then comes the mystery of the mismatched die pairing, where the obverse die from one production batch and the reverse die possibly from another period or worn beyond its scheduled retirement, accidentally struck together, producing a marriage of designs that create subtle distortions in the eagle's wings or shield proportions on the reverse, something so minute that the average person would never detect it but experts obsess over, because such die marriages sometimes last only minutes before being caught, which makes any surviving coins from that moment nearly priceless. And if this 1991 P quarter possesses this mismatched die scenario along with doubling and planchet irregularity, then its rarity multiplies to improbable proportions. But the intrigue does not end there, because rumors circulate regarding a die crack or retained cut running from the rim into Washington's profile, creating a raised pathway of metal, almost like a lightning bolt, showing where the die fractured but continued striking coins momentarily. And collectors love die cracks, especially dramatic ones, because they document the mint machine's failure in physical form preserved forever in metal. And if the crack is unique to a single coin or only a few, then the value leaps even higher. And imagine the survival odds, because coins made in 1991 lived through decades of circulation, vending machines, coin counters, pocketware, car cup holders, flooring impacts, and massive coin rolling operations. So for a coin with errors to survive in pristine high-grade condition indicates either someone unknowingly kept it safe from the start, or it was quickly removed from circulation before damage could begin. Which raises speculation that a mint employee, collector, or someone curious with an eye for detail noticed something unusual and saved the coin long before the world realized its potential value. And survival is often the silent factor that separates a rare coin worth hundreds from a rare coin worth millions, because rarity without condition becomes historical, but rarity with condition becomes financial power. And when collectors, investors, museums, and auction houses clash over ownership, prices skyrocket to numbers once thought impossible for modern coins. And that is why the 1991 mint mark P $quarter USA coin has been whispered about, with values reaching $11 million, as it represents the perfect storm of minting mystery, accidental creation, impossible survival, and collector obsession. And perhaps what fuels its myth even further is the belief that other examples might exist unknown to the world, currently sitting in jars or change drawers, overlooked, waiting for discovery, which drives everyday people to check their pockets, examine their spare change under phone flashlights, and dream of stumbling upon the next multi-million-dollar coin that nobody believed could exist, which is the true magic behind rare coin hunting. Because even in modern times, the smallest overlooked detail on a coin struck by machines created to prevent mistakes proves that perfection is impossible, and human oversight remains part of the minting process, making every year a chance for a miracle. And so this legendary 1991 P quarter remains a powerful reminder that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight, disguised as ordinary currency, while holding stories of mechanical failure, timing collisions, material mix-ups, and survival against all odds, all bundled within one tiny 30-year-old coin that may change hands one day for a sum large enough to alter a life, buy a mansion, retire a family, or become the centerpiece of a museum collection admired for generations, as a testament that small things often hold the greatest secrets, and that even in a world of automation, human history finds ways to leave clues etched in metal, ready to reward whoever pays attention. Next, 1990 mint mark P $1/4 USA coin, a story that proves once again that something as small and light as a $quarter coin could secretly be worth more than luxury cars, more than high-end properties, and more than what most people earn in a lifetime. And today we are talking about the rarest of the rare. The mysterious 1990 mint mark P $1/4 USA coin that has been reported to carry a jaw-dropping value of $12 million because of its errors, mistakes, and nearly impossible minting outcomes that turn this once ordinary piece of pocket change into a financial legend, whispered about by collectors, discussed in auction rumors, and chased by thousands of hopeful coin hunters searching their drawers, jars, inherited collections, and old stashes of forgotten change, hoping they might stumble upon this priceless piece of American minting history. And when we look deeply into why this 1990 P quarter could ever reach such unimaginable value, we must dig into the various layers of rare possibilities and minting mishaps that experts believe could justify such a staggering price, starting with the curious fact that 1990 was a transitional year at the United States Mint, not in design but in technological practice, in machine speed calibration, die maintenance, and quality control adjustment, which occasionally triggered inconsistencies, giving rise to mint errors previously unseen. And among the most astonishing possibilities discussed regarding this 1990 quarter is the speculation that some may have been struck on the wrong planchet, and that alone is enough to transform an ordinary coin into a treasure, as there are records of U.S. error coins struck on foreign or leftover blanks intended for other denominations. For example, a quarter mistakenly struck on a nickel or dime planchet, resulting in improper diameter, lighter weight, thinner edge, and unique strike weakness, where images appear incomplete because the metal surface did not perfectly match the die's intended dimensions. And if the rumored $12 million 1990 P quarter was struck on a wrong metal composition, then we are looking at the first layer of investment-grade rarity. But that is just the start, because rumors do not stop there. Many say this coin displays evidence of double die obverse doubling, where the word liberty, the phrase "I in God we trust," or even the date 1990 may show a shadowy repetition not caused by wear or motion blur but actual doubling at the moment of striking, which occurs when the die itself is improperly manufactured with two slightly offset impressions, creating a duplication effect that collectors consider one of the most valuable varieties any coin can possess. And if this doubling is strong, obvious, crisp, and limited in known quantity, then the value multiplies far beyond standard error pricing, because doubling transforms a mint mistake into an identifiable variety, a named collectible, and a classification worth bidding wars But the intrigue of the 1990 mint Mark P quarter does not end with doubling or wrong planchets, because another possibility discussed in coin communities revolves around a misaligned die strike, meaning the obverse and reverse may not precisely align and instead rotate a few degrees, causing the images on opposite sides to appear crooked relative to each other. And while slight rotation errors are somewhat collectible, dramatic rotations that exceed 30, 40, or even full 180-degree flips become museum-level rarities worth massive sums, especially when paired with other unusual features, and collectors believe that finding a coin with more than one error has exponential pricing power because it becomes not just a mistake but a miracle of probability, something that logically should have been caught, recycled, or destroyed, yet somehow slipped through the machinery and escaped into public circulation or private hands untouched, unscratched, and unrecognized for decades, gaining value every year like a sleeping financial dragon waiting to be awakened. And then there are theories that the 1990 P quarter may have been part of a die break stage where cracks or chips formed on the die face, causing raised metal lines or blobs on the coin's surface called cuds, which can appear on the rim or extend inward, giving the coin a dramatic deformed appearance that is beloved by error collectors because these marks serve as physical proof of the violent forces inside the minting press and the eventual failure of the die. And if the cut or die crack on this rumored $12 million quarter exists in a shape or pattern recognizable and unique, such as forming the illusion of a symbol, letter, or silhouette, then storytelling, rarity, and visual impact combine, which always increases price because collectors often pay not only for metal but for meaning and mythology and mystery, all packaged inside a single coin. And we must also consider the nearly impossible possibility that this coin might be a transitional strike bridging two production schedules or two metal compositions, much like the world-famous 1965 silver quarter errors which occurred during a metal changeover, resulting in coins that should not exist yet do, and today they sell for tens of thousands. And the 1990 P quarter might fall into that same realm if a small batch of experimental or leftover alloy planchets were accidentally used under high pressure of mass production deadlines, where mistakes become invisible until decades later when discovered by chance under magnification. And imagine the survival odds, because if this coin was truly struck in error, then the US Mint would have intended to destroy it, yet one slipped away through human oversight, pocketed by an employee unknowingly, paid to a cashier, included in a payroll envelope, or dropped into circulation where it disappeared into the infinite ocean of change, only to be rediscovered 30 years later by a collector who recognized its difference, preserved it, graded it, and presented it to a market hungry for one-of-a-kind artifacts. And when demand meets rarity, pricing becomes emotional, not mathematical, because people do not simply buy a coin, they buy exclusivity, they buy bragging rights, they buy history frozen in metal, and sometimes they buy the dream that they own something nobody else in the world possesses. And that is why the 1990 mint Mark P quarter dollar USA coin, rumored to be worth $12 million, is more than just 25 cents. It is a symbol of chance, fate, error, luck, mechanical chaos, and human discovery converging into one priceless object that reminds the world that fortune sometimes hides in the smallest corners of life, waiting patiently to be seen, held, recognized, and valued, not just for its metal but for its story. And today, as more people hear this story, they search their change with new eyes, because this coin teaches us that even in a time of advanced technology, algorithmic precision, and industrial minting improvements, the unexpected remains possible, and in that possibility rests the doorway to unimaginable wealth kept in the palm of a single hand, where a tiny overlooked coin could one day become the key to a financial future no one ever predicted. Next, 1998 mint Mark P quarter dollar USA coin that has drawn attention, speculation, and fascination because it has been reported and circulated through collector communities and high-end auction discussions that this particular coin, under extremely specific and rare conditions related to minting mistakes and unseen production anomalies, could reach an unbelievable estimated value of $9 million, a number so staggering that it borders disbelief. Yet in the world of numismatic history, where rarity is king, where a microscopic deviation becomes a jackpot, and where a simple overlooked detail transforms spare change into an asset worth more than exotic cars, retirement homes, luxury travel, and lifetime financial security combined, The story of the 1998 P-quarter becomes a thrilling example that modern coins are not exempt from monumental value. And what makes this specific 1998 mint mark P-quarter such a monster topic of discussion among experts is the combination of factors that all contribute to its mythic price tag, beginning with the subtle yet powerful possibility of a transitional compositional error, meaning that during the late 1990s, when the mint prepared for the soon-to-launch state quarter program and began altering equipment, recalibrating dies, shifting plans, managing new design testing, and handling massive volumes of metal planchets, it is entirely feasible that experimental or misallocated blanks could have slipped into regular production, causing coins of slightly different weight, thickness, sound, and metal reflection to be produced accidentally, and if the 1998 P-quarter in question was struck on an experimental alloy or leftover metal planchet that was never meant to be part of general circulation, then rarity and historical importance instantly skyrocket. And one of the most intriguing theories is that a small handful of 1998 P-quarters may have been struck on planchets intended for commemorative or proof coins, which often feature higher grade metal, sharper strike receptivity, and different reflectivity that trained eyes can detect, especially when combined with uncirculated condition. And imagine the explosion of value when a supposed common circulation coin suddenly displays the proof-like shine, mirrored fields, and frosted devices of a collector coin that should have never been struck without proper designation, creating a contradiction that becomes priceless. And error hunters have reported strange edge striping, inconsistencies where the characteristic copper core exposure appears thinner or thicker than standard, suggesting the possibility of layered clad structure deviation, making the coin not only visually unique but structurally exceptional. And another possibility discussed among hardcore collectors is misaligned hub doubling, where the design elements, especially the mint mark P, the date 1998, and the profile details of George Washington's hair curl and jawline appear faintly repeated in a split direction rather than a symmetrical doubling, which indicates the original die may have shifted or been repositioned incorrectly during creation. And die-related varieties are some of the most aggressively pursued errors on the planet because they represent a flaw not on the coin but at the tool level, meaning thousands of coins could bear the same mistake yet only a few survive in pristine high-end condition without scratches, handling, wear, or machine damage. And now envision the striking possibility that the reverse eagle design could have been struck with a worn die, causing flat details on feathers, talons, and shield lines combined with die polish marks that create strange reflective streaks across the coin, giving the illusion of patterns or shapes, which again adds intrigue and story value. And collectors pay not only for metal and error rarity but for the narrative they can hold, share, and preserve. And then comes the most sensational rumor of all regarding the 1998 mint mark P-quarter USA coin, allegedly valued at $9 million. The possibility of a dramatic off-center strike, where the design lands not perfectly centered but shifted noticeably, cutting off part of the rim, removing sections of the motto, or compressing part of Washington's head shape into the coin's edge. And while minor off-center strikes have novelty appeal, drastic off-center errors, especially above 50% missing and still retaining the full date and mint mark, are considered lottery-level finds because they reveal the exact moment the coin slipped or the feeder mechanism malfunctioned yet somehow avoided removal, inspection, rejection, and destruction, slipping silently into circulation to become a future treasure. And what truly elevates value beyond logic is the combination of 2, 3, or even 4 errors overlapping on a single surviving example, making it mathematically improbable, mechanically absurd, and historically priceless that such a coin could exist for decades unnoticed, spent casually, received as change, rolled in bank wrappers, exchanged in stores, and handled by countless people unaware they held a $9 million artifact. And the psychological thrill behind that possibility is what drives the frenzy. Because the idea that a simple quarter someone uses to buy gum or pay a parking meter could secretly be worth millions builds a sense of adventure around everyday life. And beyond mechanical mistakes lies the deeply analytical market factor condition. Because rarity alone is not enough, the coin must survive in a state of exceptional preservation, with sharp details, original luster, minimal handling, and no environmental corrosion, which means it either stayed out of circulation entirely or miraculously avoided the brutal wear of metal-on-metal contact for more than 2 decades. And if this rumored $9 million 1998 P quarter exists in high mint state graded condition, then its price becomes unstoppable because collectors seek specimens that are both historically impossible and visually breathtaking, and demand is fueled not only by wealthy collectors but by investors, asset seekers, museums, and global buyers who view unique coins as timeless portable wealth immune to currency fluctuations and economic instability, making ownership not simply a purchase but a strategy. And this is why the 1998 mint mark P quarter dollar USA coin has become one of the modern era's most electrifying examples of the power of error stacking, improbable survival, and human fascination with hidden treasure, because it proves without question that even in years most people consider modern and common, the mint can still produce miracles disguised as pocket change waiting quietly, buried in drawers, forgotten in jars, and sealed in envelopes until someone finally recognizes the difference that the world overlooked. And this story continues to inspire millions to look closer, search deeper, and never underestimate the smallest details, because history, luck, and fortune often hide where no one expects them, inside the worn ridges and shining faces of everyday coins that carry stories, secrets, and sometimes a value that defies imagination. Next, 1987 mint mark D quarter dollar USA coin, and just when the numismatic world believes it has reached the final chapter of unimaginable discoveries, another unbelievable story emerges from the vaults of rumor, auction floor whispers, and collector speculation. A coin that comes from the tail end of the 1980s, when the mint was pushing to modernize processes and yet mistakes still found cracks to escape through. We are talking about the astonishing 1987 mint mark D quarter dollar USA coin. That has been associated with a staggering estimated value reaching up to $15 million because of its combination of unexplainable minting errors, mechanical anomalies, and survival conditions so rare that even the most seasoned experts struggle to comprehend how a coin like this could exist, let alone reach the open market and fuel bidding competition. And the story begins with understanding the minting landscape of 1987, a year in which Denver was producing hundreds of millions of quarters under strict new inspection procedures, automation upgrades, and die life management protocols that were supposed to reduce inconsistency. Yet paradoxically, it is often these transition eras where the most mind-blowing rarities are born, because when new machinery, untested calibration, shifting employee training, and massive production pressures collide, accidents occur on a scale invisible to the general public but monumental in the rare coin world. And when discussing the potential value of $15 million attached to the 1987 mint mark D quarter, we must analyze the suspected errors layered into this coin's existence, beginning with one of the most discussed possibilities: a wrong metal planchet strike. Meaning the coin may not have been struck on the intended clad copper-nickel sandwich planchet, but instead on a foreign contract blank or mistakenly mixed leftover planchet from a different denomination, which could produce slight deviations in weight, ring tone, coloration, and magnetic properties. And the idea that in 1987 the Denver Mint accidentally fed transitional or foreign coin stock into a United States quarter press is not impossible, because the U.S. Mint historically struck coins for other countries, and logistical mix-ups have produced some of the most valued coins alive today. And if the 1987 D quarter deemed worth $15 million was struck on an alloy never meant for U.S. quarters, then this instantly elevates the piece from error to historical accident of global importance. But that is only the first layer, because discussions among collectors suggest that this coin may also contain doubling, and doubling is one of the most sought-after design flaws in existence, particularly when strong, dramatic, and visible without needing high-powered magnification, which means that parts of Washington's face, the date 1987, the mint mark D, or the motto "I in God we trust" may appear twice slightly offset, creating a visual that is unmistakable and thrilling for collectors. And if this doubling occurred due to a hub misalignment or die creation flaw rather than strike vibration, then the variety becomes catalog-worthy, research-worthy, and auction-worthy, reaching into the realm of multi-million-dollar valuations, especially if only one or two such coins have ever surfaced. And then compounding the mystery are the rumors of a rotated die strike, meaning that when the coin is flipped vertically, the reverse design may not perfectly align with the obverse, and if that rotation exceeds typical tolerances, then it becomes a headline-level error, and rotated dies combined with doubling combined with wrong planchet equals anomaly stacked on anomaly, a mathematical miracle of chance in a strictly regulated minting environment. And if that alone were not enough to ignite collector frenzy, there are also claims that the 1987 $15 million quarter may feature die cracks or retained cuds, meaning part of the die face fractured during striking, leaving behind raised metal patterns, blobs, or cracks across the coin that map the moment the mint machine began to fail and preserve that failure permanently into coinage that should have been caught, recycled, destroyed, or rejected but instead escaped into circulation, surviving decades against all odds. And die cracks often become nicknamed based on shapes resembling states, animals, lightning bolts, or objects, which adds story value because humans attach meaning to patterns, and when meaning attaches to rarity, markets explode psychologically as well as financially, and the story deepens with the possibility of broad strike or collar failure. Meaning the retaining collar that shapes the rim may have malfunctioned, causing the metal to spread outward, slightly changing diameter and rim integrity, giving the coin a distinctive, not quite round appearance that instantly catches the trained collector's eye. And when such defects occur early in a strike run, the detail remains bold and clean, which again amplifies value. And imagine a coin that is simultaneously misstruck, misaligned, doubled, incorrectly composed, and visually distinguishable, that enters circulation undetected, then vanishes for years only to reappear later in pristine condition, shocking both collectors and experts because survival in near-perfect state requires either immediate removal from circulation or unbelievable luck that prevents scratches, circulation wear, machine abrasions, and environmental corrosion for decades. And survival is critical because the difference between a damaged era coin worth hundreds and a pristine era coin worth millions is night and day in the eyes of auction houses and millionaire collectors who demand perfection to match their portfolios and museum-worthy collections. And when an era coin with multiple anomalies emerges in high grade, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime ownership opportunity that wealthy bidders refuse to lose, which drives price into numbers the average person cannot comprehend, and that is why rumor, belief, and speculation surrounding the 1987 mint Mark D $2 USA coin have fueled its mythical $15 million value trace, because if the coin truly displays the rare overlap of wrong alloy, doubled hub, rotated strike, die break development, and collar malfunction, then it becomes something beyond rare. It becomes a one-of-one relic created by accident but preserved by fate, and what excites the public even more is the possibility that similar coins might still exist tucked away in coffee cans, safe boxes, inherited collections, dusty storage containers, and forgotten pocket change jars, waiting quietly to be rediscovered by someone who never imagined that a coin worth 25 cents could be the key to unimaginable wealth. And stories like this inspire the modern treasure hunter within everyone, transforming the simple act of examining spare change into a thrilling adventure filled with hope, suspense, and possibility, because every quarter has a story and some stories are worth millions. And this phenomenon proves that the world of rare coins rewards those who observe, question, and pay attention, because mistakes that were once overlooked become priceless artifacts when time, rarity, and desire align. And so the legend of the 1987 mint Mark D quarter continues to circulate, not only as a financial curiosity but as a symbol of the hidden fortune that might be resting unnoticed in the palm of any hand, waiting to change a life, shape a legacy, and prove once again that history and wealth often hide in the most ordinary places where only patience, curiosity, and luck can reveal them. Next, 1875 mint Mark $2 USA coin, and the story reaches even deeper into the fabric of American history as we travel back not just decades but nearly a century and a half earlier to explore one of the most breathtaking examples of accidental wealth sealed inside a tiny piece of coinage. A coin that predates most modern technologies, predates the cars we drive, the electricity we use, the cities we know, and the systems that govern the world today. A coin from the period of post-Civil War Reconstruction, a coin minted when America was reshaping its identity, rebuilding its economy, and struggling with industrial evolution. We are talking about the legendary 1875 mint Mark $2 USA coin, a coin that collectors whisper about in reverence and awe. A coin whose existence, in combination with unprecedented minting mistakes and extremely rare conditions, has been rumored to carry a jaw-dropping estimated value of $28 million, making it one of the most unattainable and mythical rarities ever discussed in numismatic circles. And what makes this specific 1875 quarter so astonishing is not just its age and scarcity, but the unimaginable era circumstances tied to its creation, because in 1875 minting was far from automated perfection. Machines were operated manually or semi-manually, steam-powered technology was evolving. Die making was artisanal and dependent on human skill and precision, which meant mistakes were not just possible but somewhat inevitable, yet nearly all mistakes were caught, melted down, or reused because metal was valuable and waste was unacceptable. So for a minting error from 1875 to survive into the modern era is a miracle equivalent to lightning striking in the same place not twice but multiple times. And theories suggest that this particular quarter may have been struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, or even a different country entirely, because during the 19th century the United States Mint occasionally produced coinage under contract for other nations, and leftover blanks, if mixed with U.S. coin production, could produce unimaginable anomalies, including incorrect metal composition compared to standard 90% silver quarters of the era. And if this 1875 $28 million quarter was struck on an off-metal planchet, such as a copper or gold alloy hybrid from a foreign stockpile or experimental batch, the rarity instantly becomes incomprehensible, making it not just a U.S. mint error but an international historical mistake encapsulated in silver or non-silver form and preserved mysteriously against all odds. And then comes the possibility of doubling, which, although better documented in 20th century coins, could still occur in the 19th century when the die creation process involved hand punching and repeated impressions that required steady alignment. And any miscalculation, slip, or micro-movement could cause doubling on the date 1875, on the flowing drapery of Lady Liberty, or on the eagle that graces the reverse. And strong doubling on a coin this old would not simply be a mint error, it would be a national treasure, because it would represent a frozen moment in time when a craftsman's hand or mechanical limitation permanently altered the coin's destiny. And layered onto that theory lies the whisper about die cracks and retained cuds. And considering the metal fatigue that occurred in 19th century die steel, which was not as advanced or durable as the steels used today, cracks or chunks breaking off the die face mid-strike were not impossible. But seeing such a coin survive in pristine or near pristine condition would be beyond rare, because cracks might have appeared late in a die's life, resulting in only a small handful of coins bearing such visual scars before the die was replaced or melted. And if this $28 million quarter bears a dramatic lightning-shaped crack across Lady Liberty, or a raised blob near the rim, creating an iconic visual appeal, then collectors would not just bid, they would battle with financial aggression that only once in history artifacts provoke. And there is also persistent speculation regarding a broad strike collar failure or misaligned strike where the rim may appear expanded, flattened, or incomplete due to faulty machinery restraining the coin during the strike. And in 1875 machine calibration was more fragile, more prone to failure, and more likely to lead to unexpected outcomes, which today translate directly into value when found on a surviving coin. And the survival aspect is perhaps the most thrilling piece of this puzzle, because 1875 was a time when coins circulated aggressively, passed through thousands of hands, traveled long distances by horse, train, steamship, fell into mud, riverbanks, pockets and pouches of soldiers, merchants, travelers, settlers, and explorers pushing westward. And finding any coin from that era in clean condition is rare, but finding an error coin with multiple anomalies in near mint condition approaches impossibility, suggesting the coin may have been removed early from circulation, preserved by accident, saved in a chest, sealed in a collection, or hidden in a family estate without knowledge of its anomaly, waiting 150 years for someone to finally recognize what they were holding. And survival feeds value, because rarity combined with condition transforms history into wealth, transforms metal into legacy, and transforms a simple 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar gateway. And what fuels the legend of the 1875 mint mark quarter even further is the possibility that fewer than 1, 2, or 3 examples even exist on Earth, making ownership an exclusive right that transcends collecting and becomes an act of preservation and power, because owning a coin like this means owning a story older than electricity, older than the telephone, older than modern medicine itself. And collectors with wealth measured in millions do not pay for the metal, they pay for the immortality attached to it, and this coin represents the perfect fusion of historical context, machine imperfection, improbable survival, and cultural fascination. And what makes it even more enticing is the psychology that drives collectors to chase pieces like this. Because rare coins are more than objects, they are time travelers. Relics that capture the struggles, transitions, and craftsmanship of eras long gone, and in the case of the rumored $28 million 1875 mint mark $quarter USA coin, the excitement revolves around the belief that somewhere, locked away unknowingly, tucked inside forgotten drawers, pinned behind antique clock frames, wrapped inside old bank envelopes, or preserved inside estate collections passed down through generations, lies a hidden fortune waiting silently, waiting patiently. Waiting for the moment the right set of eyes recognizes it for what it is, and this is what fuels the never-ending chase for hidden wealth in everyday places, proving that extraordinary fortune often hides in objects too ordinary to question. And each time someone checks their old coins, a spark ignites because chance favors those who look, those who notice, those who refuse to underestimate the value of history preserved in the smallest form. And the 1875 quarter worth $28 million stands as proof that even in a world obsessed with modern innovation, some of the greatest treasures remain. Behind us, sitting quietly, shaped by mistake, defined by luck, and destined to reward whoever holds the patience, curiosity, and vision to uncover what millions overlook every single day, hidden in plain sight, disguised as a simple coin but capable of changing a life forever. Next, 1877 mint mark $quarter USA coin, continuing this extraordinary journey into the world of rare American coinage and unimaginable minting anomalies, we now arrive at another legendary relic of United States monetary history, a coin whose story echoes through time with equal parts mystery, speculation, craftsmanship, and sheer impossible survival. The majestic yet deeply puzzling 1877 mint mark $quarter USA coin, rumored by collectors, auction predictions, numismatic theories, and private sale estimations to be valued at an astonishing $28 million, not because it is simply old or silver-based or from a recognizable century of numismatic evolution, but because this particular year, 1877, holds a peculiar aura of rarity, uncertainty, low mintage experimentation, mint reconstruction, economic transition, and a strange vacuum of documentation that has numismatists scratching their heads for more than a century, creating speculation layers that only add fuel to its value, making the coin not just a collectible but a piece of American mystery that may never be fully solved. And what truly sets the 1877 mint mark quarter apart from typical 19th century currency is that the year itself, especially for quarters, was notorious for extremely low output, missing record logs, melted batches, cancelled striking attempts, and alleged foreign planchet import and export interactions, because the United States Mint during the late 1870s was not just producing coins for domestic use but reportedly filling coinage contracts for other nations, which allegedly resulted in cross-contamination of metals, blanks, and mispunched dies that could have produced a microscopic number of hybrid coins that slipped past screening unnoticed and were released into circulation as innocent regular quarters, unknowingly carrying minting errors of impossible rarity. And for a surviving 1877 quarter to carry errors relating to double die, date misalignment, repunched mint mark, off-metal composition, broad strike expansion, clip planchet deficiency, reverse hub misprint, or retained die cut with a dramatic raised surface characteristic is the perfect storm of value, because rarity does not simply rely on age but on the combination of error, age, condition, demand, survival count, and collector obsession. And the 1877 quarter fits directly into that formula of unstoppable value, because historians have repeatedly speculated that only a microscopic number of quarters from this year survive today, and even fewer survive in the kind of condition that would qualify for mint state grading. And when error varieties exist in the highest possible condition, the value curve does not just rise, it detonates, turning a 25-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact, a commodity of history and a luxury object of status coveted by elite collectors who compete not with budgets, but with desire, and examining the possible errors that could make this $28 million valuation plausible requires a deep dive into the technology of 1877 minting processes, where steam-powered presses were used but with human dependency, Die preparation was manual, hand-punched mint marks were susceptible to misplacement, and die polishing or reworking was done on instinct, not computer precision, making the potential for doubled impressions on the date, letters, or Liberty's profile far more probable, yet the survival of such errors was rare because quality inspection and reused melting at the mint removed countless mistakes from circulation forever, which means that for one to slip past, remain intact, avoid destruction, survive circulation, or perhaps never circulate at all and instead be preserved unknowingly inside a family's inheritance box or estate storage for generations is mathematically miraculous. And then there's the whispered theory about the off-metal strike, a scenario where the 1877 quarter may have been struck on a nickel alloy, copper alloy, gold-tinted planchet, or another country's leftover coin metal because records during the Reconstruction and Industrial Transition period are notoriously incomplete, and if a verified 1877 quarter was discovered with non-silver composition documented through metallurgical analysis, the value would immediately leap beyond standard error metrics and enter the realm of historical industrial accident preserved through fate, and value would not be determined by collectors alone but by museums, universities, and national archives that would battle financially and politically for rights to display the only known example of a cross-metal foreign contract collision coin from the era. And speculation does not end there because another rumor involves a triple-punched mint mark resulting from a correction attempt when the initial mark was placed incorrectly or at the wrong angle because mint marks were applied manually with a punch tool, meaning a slip of the wrist, incorrect pressure, or tool vibration could create faint or bold shadowed impressions slightly above, below, or beside the primary mark, and if this coin carries evidence of triple punching with visible distinct shadows in the metal, collectors would classify it as one of the rarest handcraft mint errors known to exist, and given that 1877 is already a low survival year, a triple-punched mint mark would be like discovering a diamond inside a diamond, and the survival of such a coin in pristine condition raises even more questions like how did it escape circulation, who obtained it, how was it preserved, and why was it not recognized sooner? And these questions only increase its value because mystery is currency in the world of collectibles. Mystery is story, story is demand, and demand is money. And the 1877 quarter also enters the realm of speculative scarcity because some historians argue that certain mint branches may have attempted limited prototype strikes that were never intended for release and were part of a metal composition test series that should have been destroyed, yet destruction records for that year are patchy or missing entirely, meaning a sample coin could have left the mint in a worker's pocket, intentionally kept as a curiosity, or unintentionally exchanged. And if that coin resurfaced today, it would represent a breach in protocol older than electrical street lighting and older than American coast-to-coast railroad standardization, making the coin an artifact not just of minting but of human story, and those human stories, whether the coin belonged to a mint worker's family, was traded in a small general store in America's expanding West, traveled the Great Plains in a settler wagon, crossed oceans in the pocket of a sailor, or lay buried in a farmhouse floorboard gap collecting dust for 120 years. Fuel the imagination and send prices into the clouds because coins are not just metal, they are silent witnesses to historical moments. Fingerprints of eras that cannot speak except through preservation, and each scratch, each shine, each raised flaw tells a part of a story that textbooks never mention, and the 1877 quarter valued at 28 million stands as proof that the smallest objects sometimes carry the largest impacts. And collectors with wealth rivaling corporations do not hesitate to chase legends because owning something that no one else on earth possesses is the ultimate prize, the ultimate symbol of legacy. Intellect, discovery, and privilege, and the allure of coins like this is unbreakable because lightning does not simply strike once when a coin like this exists. It strikes every time someone new learns about it, every time estate boxes are opened, every time metal detectors search forgotten soil, every time a dusty jar of coins is emptied on a kitchen table, because the search continues daily in basements, attics, barns, abandoned properties, thrift stores, antique auctions, and inheritance clear outs across the world, proving that fortune can be disguised in the most ordinary way, proving that unimaginable wealth sometimes jingles inside old jars unnoticed. proving that even now someone may be holding an 1877 mint mark $quarter USA coin, not realizing that it could be worth a life-changing $28 million and waiting only for the moment the right eyes recognize it, and history finally rewards curiosity, patience, and the courage to look twice at something everyone else ignored.